The name of the panel is Why the Future of Mining is Green. And we have three illustrious panelists along with myself. I'm kind of host slash panelist. First, we have our Argo's collaborator, Sheldon Bennett from DMG Blockchain Solutions. Everyone's going to do a little intro. I'll just kind of name everyone first. Then we've got Jesse Morris from Energy Web, and we've got Max Song from Carbonbase. So I'm going to start with Sheldon. Give us a quick intro.
Hi, thank you, Peter. My name is Sheldon Bennett. I'm the CEO of DMG Blockchain Solutions. Like Argo, we are a Bitcoin miner. We are also a software company, and we've formed a partnership with Argo on an exciting venture called TerraPool, which we'll get into. And I'm looking forward to discussing green Bitcoin.
Awesome. Thanks, Sheldon. Jesse.
Thanks for having me, Peter. And hi, everybody. My name is Jesse Morris. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer and co-founder of a nonprofit foundation called Energy Web. Energy Web builds open source software to help grid operators and other energy market participants around the world decarbonize our energy systems. We sit at the nexus between crypto and the energy system because we actually use blockchain technology as a part of our open source stack. Therefore, we launched something called the Crypto Climate Accord, which I'm sure we'll speak about, that's focused on helping Bitcoin and all cryptocurrency become 100% renewable. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse. Max.
Hi, thank you, Peter, and nice to be here as well. My name is Max. I'm founder and CEO of a company called Carbonbase, based out here in Asia, and we are helping large enterprises and individuals calculate, manage, and reduce their carbon footprint. I'm also the founder of an organization, along with many other illustrious individuals and companies, called Sustainable Bitcoin Standard. And we're actually defining a process by which the existing production of Bitcoin can be verified to become carbon neutral, so institutions and other investors can feel comfortable owning Bitcoin on their balance sheets without having to worry about the carbon footprint.
Awesome. And I'm Peter from Argo. I'm the CEO at Argo. Argo is a publicly traded crypto miner listed in the UK. We've been around for a while. And we, if you know Argo at all, have been pushing really hard on being green miners and on as much as possible using renewable power to mine cryptocurrency. We think that's the future. So this is a great panel because we've got miners, we've got technologists thinking about blockchain, and then we've got as well, this kind of idea of standards, and Max, your group, and everyone's kind of mixed together because we're actually all of those things at the same time. I don't know, Jesse and Max, if you guys are miners as well, but Argo is also thinking, and I know DMG is thinking about standards and thinking about how we can use blockchain, as well to decarbonize mining. But wow, there is a lot of things going on in this space right now around green Bitcoin. It's kind of crazy. We've had Elon, a couple days ago say that he's moving away from BTC or whatever. He's holding his BTC now because he doesn't want to, participate or in the kind of mining, the unsustainable mining practices that he's seen out there. And then that's just kind of, and it was already a lot of people talking about ESG and mining and the environmental impact of mining before that. And now it's really blown up. Jesse, what have you seen? I mean, you've been on literally in the trenches of this. What is going on out there about green crypto?
So I think what's funny is if I look back October last year, we, Energy Web, actually did a project with Ripple because Ripple approached us and said, well, wait a minute. At some point, we think that all crypto is going to have an ESG sustainability problem. I said, well, wait, what do you mean? He said, well, if Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are going to continue to be invested in by individuals, organizations all around the world, this carbon thing's got to be solved, right? And made sense to us at the time because our organization is focused on helping make grids clean, forget crypto for a second. And that actually resonated. So we did a project with Ripple last year to fully decarbonize the XRP ledger. Now that was pretty easy because you have an organization, in that case it was Ripple, that stepped forward and purchased renewable energy certificates from different places around the world to make that blockchain clean for a year. If I fast forward to now, I feel like I was screaming into the void at that point last year, which was about October. We were pitching exchanges, we were pitching Bitcoin holders, we were pitching miners saying, hey, let's start doing some of the stuff you guys just talked about, build standards, start thinking about how we can make crypto green. It was really hard. I don't know what changed between then and now. And even before, like you said, Peter, before Elon's tweet, this stuff was still going crazy. But clearly the world is paying attention. And I think it's a good thing because I do think making crypto green is, sure, it's challenged. There's some carbon in the system that we've got to get rid of. but it's also a pretty big opportunity if you put your hat on and think about how we can use the crypto industry to bring capital to renewable energy facilities, or Max, some of the projects that you're looking at in terms of kind of the next generation of offsets. So high level, it's one thing that's going on.
Cool. Max, why so much talk about this right now?
I think over the last year, two things have happened. One, on the macroeconomic landscape, the fiscal stimulus actually to help countries overcome COVID has started to change people's perception of what fiat money was supposed to, where it was going, and actually open the door for a very larger conversation of actually companies and individuals trying to hedge their fiat exposure by owning digital assets. That's like the first thing. That's a huge momentous thing. We see a lot of companies now starting to buy Bitcoin that would never have considered before, led by MicroStrategy, Tesla, Square, and many others. Simultaneously, there's now an increasing regulatory requirement for companies, especially listed ones, to disclose their particular ESG holdings. So we're seeing the confluence of these two huge trends meeting in parallel. And just to echo what Jesse's saying, the acceleration of listed companies' desire to both own Bitcoin and be simultaneously concerned about their ability to relate to ESG-minded investors is actually creating this nexus. And Tesla's decision, while momentous, actually was foreshadowed by the huge amount of criticism that it received when it made the Bitcoin purchase. There was an article in FT, many articles in other places that sort of questioned the bona fides of Tesla actually as an EV and sustainability company, while recognizing the existing footprints that have been pretty well documented.
Interesting. I mean, from my take, Max, I agree that this kind of institutional interest in crypto and all of the stories, that narrative of Bitcoin being gold 2.0 and all of the energy that's gone into the institutions coming into Bitcoin has driven now this interest. Like it's kind of like 2017, 2018 all over again. And along with that interest has come this media attention, and the media, and I can speak as a former journalist, 10 years of the CBC, media loves a good conflict. They love to kind of, oh, this is great, but what about this kind of angle? And so we've seen, oh, Bitcoin's great. It's at, 60K, 50K, but what about the environmental impact? So, and then I think there's been a lack of data at the same time. Like, it's really hard to get good data on, how much of crypto is being powered by coal, how much of crypto is being mined in China. Like we have general kind of numbers. I think that's a good kind of way to move us into our next kind of set of topics. So we've talked a little bit about, what's going on. And now let's talk a little bit about what we're doing, because I think all of us are aligned that that Bitcoin needs to be, and crypto needs to be environmentally friendly. It needs to have, as small a footprint on the earth as possible. And at the same time, we all love crypto and we're bullish about it and we want it to be successful, and blockchain technology will have a real impact and is having an impact on the world in many positive ways. So Sheldon, let me go back to you. What are you guys doing at DMG and we can go around the room, but why don't we start with you? What are you guys doing to make sure that, that Bitcoin is green and that crypto is going to be green moving forward?
So, I mean, one of the things about DMG that we're unique is where we are, and many companies have this advantage and lots don't, but we are in an area that has hydroelectric power. So, sort of by definition, we're renewable. On top of that, we've made a decision to put in our own solar power on top of that, so that we don't only just take hydropower, but we have our own solar power up to 5 megawatts for the amount of land space we have that we can have on top of that. So we don't even have to buy hydroelectricity. We can consume our own generation as well. But because of where we are, we're not sitting in coal or natural gas area for DMG. We're kind of blessed that way that we're in this province. But the one thing that we are doing, and we take very seriously, is on the technology side of our Blockseer platforms, we're trying to find ways to be regulatory and compliant. And so we launched a pool recently that was really focused on, financial issues around cryptocurrency with another partner, and that's going very well. When we were talking about this technology with Peter at Argo, we started really getting into this, his passion, and we're big believers in it too, of the environment. And so we came together and came with the idea of TerraPool, of using our technology and our abilities to create Bitcoin mining pools where we would only accept people in that would meet a certain standard of renewable or be on that path. And we've set up some rules and regulations, and we've got, Jesse really helping us on that as well. And we've got a few other organizations helping us put that together. But what we believe that this Terra pool is going to be sort of the pinnacle and the shining light to the community, saying, hey, you know, these are the ambassadors of Bitcoin out there. These are the guys that are showing that there's a way to do this properly. And so we're pretty excited about using our technology and our software to be able to bring forward the good side of all of the crypto discussion.
And if I can add to that, like, you know, we've been collaborating on the Terra pool, and it's been really collaborative, which has been awesome, because this space is not known like within the mining space. I mean, a lot of us know each other. We've been around for a while, but there isn't a ton of collaborations that happen between the miners the way we've been collaborating. So that's been awesome, because I think we have a shared, I think we're aligned in kind of our vision for, you know, again, trying to make crypto and Bitcoin as green as we can. And at the same time, if we're talking about what we're doing together, we also signed, you know, today, and this is going to come out in a little bit of time, but we signed, you know, thanks to the efforts that Jesse's been doing, we signed the Crypto Climate Accord, which we're really proud of. We're the first signatories in the signatory category. Jesse, do you want to just tell us a little bit about, you know, the CCA and obviously Energy Web and the things you're doing around the both of them?
Yeah, and then let's definitely come back to the signatory piece, because that's really important, I think, for the audience members at this conference to take home. So stepping back from the Energy Web side, again, we build open source software. And so we wanted to just start building solutions to try and help miners basically prove that they're green. And then on the other side, help crypto holders decarbonize their holdings. But before we started building stuff, we said, well, wait a minute. We've also got to play the political coalition building side of this, meaning, can we pull together a critical mass of the crypto industry to really just coalesce around this shared vision of making crypto green? Because I think now, even in the past couple of weeks, it's becoming a little bit more obvious that a lot of the miners and other organizations, not just in Bitcoin, but in other crypto communities, are recognizing the kind of need to go renewable and to become environmentally friendly. But that wasn't the case even a couple of months ago, right? So that's where we started talking to organizations like Argo, like DMG and others. And what came out the other side was something called the Crypto Climate Accord. So it's modeled after the Paris Climate Agreement. And the idea is pretty simple. It was, how many organizations from the crypto and renewable energy space can we get to come in and say, we think crypto could be 100% renewable? Right, that was the initial piece. So we launched this thing called the Crypto Climate Accord. We've got close to 50 supporters right now. And the point of that is, to pull these organizations together and to begin setting different objectives for the different organizations, to begin building technologies to actually help accelerate decarbonization of crypto, but also to set very specific objectives. And that's where I do want to come back to the leadership that Argo and DMG have put together. So that, you know, Argo, DMG, we started having some chats, started learning a little bit about Terra pool. And your idea, if I can just put it out there, was saying, well, wait a minute, supporting the Crypto Climate Accord, that's nice. But, you know, putting a logo up on a website and saying, whew, good thing we did that, we can now claim we're supporting Crypto Climate Accord, forget about it, right? And so you guys said, Jesse, wait a minute, let's push that further. Why can't we create more of a binding net zero electricity commitment that we could actually get supporters to sign, right? So this would be the equivalent of, in Paris speak, of getting China, the US, Japan to actually sign a binding document that says we commit to X objective by 2030 for our organization, right? So that's what was announced very recently, is that Argo and DMG are the first signatories under the Crypto Climate Accord, actually committing to a net zero electricity commitment. And so that was just a huge deal for us, because again, we're energy and climate people. So we should be the ones being as bullish and spearheaded as in terms of carbon reduction and everything. So it was incredible to see you guys come forward and say, no, that's not good enough. This is what we need to be holding everybody account to. And so that's the point.
Yeah. And to your guys' credit, Jesse, you didn't say, what, you know, you weren't defensive. You didn't say go away. You actually leaned into that, and we're like, oh, right on. Let's engage and let's have more conversations, and we move things ahead. So again, it's been a really nice collaboration, and hopefully we can continue to collaborate. And now let's bring Max in, because Max, Jesse and Sheldon and I have been working together for a while. We've only met you recently, but you guys are doing some amazing things too, and we want to hear about them. So tell us what you're up to.
Thank you, and again, my congratulations to Argo and DMG for being the first signatories to the CCA. I think it's a landmark moment for both the mining industry and also for the organization information. So kudos to you guys. I think for us, as Sustainable Bitcoin Standard, we're really trying to create economic models that actually can empower the mining company to be neutral. I think we're in the same thematic track as actually the discussion. Our founding DNA is that myself, I'm a former data scientist. I worked in California for a number of years doing sort of financial data set analysis, especially for regulatory purposes, for large institutions. And then I came to Asia and I did a master's program in a Schwarzman Scholars Program where I looked specifically at the comparative policy formation of climate change between the United States and China. And in the past, we had the space race. And my thesis actually was around the conversation of were we going to see a green race, right? Now, Donald Trump gets elected, right during the middle of my studies. And I think the US sort of disappeared from the scene for a few years, particularly because of the administration's views. But my philosophy actually, and sort of what I saw was that there was actually a lot of collaborative potential between the East and the West with the topic of climate change in particular. There was many points of conflict and competition, but climate change was a unifying factor and one that really spoke to myself. I met my co-founder for Sustainable Bitcoin Standard, Brad, here in Hong Kong, and he actually is American, but he's lived around the world in Africa and Southeast Asia. And for the last 7 years, he's been involved very heavily with creations and development of sustainability standards in the apparel industry. And he actually sits on the board of one of the largest standards for this category. And so we discussed a lot about the ways that standard creation can be done that actually allows the market mechanism to sort of react to it as well. And I think the genesis of Sustainable Bitcoin Standard was really around noticing that the institutional desire to buy crypto was being largely hindered and restricted by the ability for them to answer the climate and ESG question. So what we're trying to do at Sustainable Bitcoin Standard is really to develop a market mechanism. It will have some learnings from the renewable energy certificate market, but we're describing it as a sustainable Bitcoin certificate, which would be a standalone certificate given to miners that are provably using renewable energy so that they can actually then resell that certificate to buyers of Bitcoin who want to have a carbon neutral sort of accounting on their balance sheet. The other side of it is the carbon markets. And so Mark Carney, former central bank of England, was appointed to be the special envoy for climate finance, specifically to scale the voluntary carbon markets. And I really believe the carbon markets represent an incredible opportunity for redistribution of resources to combat climate change. The people at the front lines who are actually facing the worst amount of damage in terms of economic and social standards of living from climate change are the ones who've actually polluted the least. And so by using the recognition that there's value in sequestering and preserving carbon in our natural resources, we're actually able to route some capital over to these guys and help them, adapt and survive. So we see there being ability to scalably use the volunteer carbon market to reduce the amount of carbon emissions that has been associated with existing Bitcoin in existence. And that also is able to create the sustainable Bitcoin certificate. So these two pathways, renewable energy usage or carbon neutralization, hopefully can create a new asset class, which is the sustainable Bitcoin certificate that can then be traded, exchanged, and also used on the balance sheets of companies and individuals to actually help them achieve carbon neutrality.
Jesse, fungibility. When anyone talks about green Bitcoin, there's this concern about fungibility. Do you want to? And we don't have a ton more time because we've only got 30 minutes for the panel. So I'm gonna let you. And if you don't want to talk about fungibility, you have the floor to respond to anything you've heard. But it is a concern that people bring up. Well, if you're going to make green Bitcoin, if you're going to make something unique, or you're going to separate it, Bitcoin needs to be one, it needs to be whole, it needs to be interchangeable. How do you respond to that? How do you think about that?
I think the idea of attacking the fungibility of Bitcoin or other cryptos is a waste of our time. Is the simple answer. I think we can absolutely make Bitcoin, capital B, green, while preserving the fungibility of the individual Bitcoins. There are many different financial instruments upon which we could do that. People have been talking about green ETFs would be one path. I think there's many others. So at the high level, that would be my answer to that one. But I think I'd like to step back, just going back to standards and kind of what do we do in this space. I do think it's on us because there's so much work happening here. We should try and keep things simple, because when I look at this space and I look at Bitcoin in particular, I think there's two things we need to do as an industry. So thing one, especially in the next couple of years, is, Max, I think you guys are already looking at this specifically, just apply tried and true methods of purchasing renewables to existing crypto holders and buyers, and maybe even miners. So what does that tangibly mean? Help them buy REX, help them buy offsets, help them execute power purchase agreements. Those same kind of transactional instruments, that's how we decarbonize the world today. That's how we decarbonize electricity. Now, we happen to be doing it for a corporate, for example, who has brought Bitcoin onto their balance sheet, and then they say, ooh, this is responsible for emitting X carbon each year based on a transparent series of calculations. Let me go clean that up. That's what we need to do, in my opinion. And that's sort of more on the demand side of crypto.
And the cool thing, sorry to interrupt, Jesse, but the cool thing is it's actually not that hard to do. You know, especially with Bitcoin, because you know, like petahash and energy are so intricately linked that you can get that math pretty easily. Yes, exactly. Now, I think that's the easy part, I would call, in air quotes. The harder part is, I think, Sheldon and Peter, what we're really excited to work with you, and Max, it'd be awesome to get you guys under the CCA, because I think we're all attacking the same thing. The more transformational play is using technology to bring real-time transparency to the almost real-time carbon emissions of the entire Bitcoin network. If we can do that, it becomes much easier, kind of from the bottom up, to start decarbonizing the network. I know you guys have some tech in place to do that. We have some tech that, what's funny is, uses blockchain. So we can use blockchain's energy intensity problem to kind of solve it, which is pretty cool. So that's going to be a little bit harder because of stakeholder engagement. How are we going to talk Bitcoin mining pools in China into engaging in a piece of software that might help disclose the green hash rate of the network? That's a challenge, but I don't think it's a technology challenge. I think it's a stakeholder engagement challenge. Cool.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jess. I mean, we've talked about this already. You know, a lot of miners out there have a really good mine management software. We have some. We license it out as part of our pool, where we can get to the miner and actually see what miner is consuming, when it's consuming, for how long it's consuming. And then on Energy Web, you know the energy coming in, and you start putting this all together, and you can really track and trace this, and you can really get down to the nitty-gritty of what's going on in the power side of creating Bitcoin.
Which, by the way, just one final thing from my side, this is an opportunity for us to show the rest of the power sector what the future should look like. The entire system of using renewable energy certificates with dozens or hundreds of different registries in different countries around the world is unbelievably antiquated. We have the technology to be able to show exactly where power is being produced and used. Let's apply that to Bitcoin. Let's show the real-time carbon emissions of the network. That's what the rest of the world could look like in every other industry.
Awesome. Okay, we have like a minute left. Okay, each person just quickly. The question of the panel is why the future of Bitcoin is green.
And I believe that the future of mining is green because we are literally out of time. We have 7 years left until we blow past our existing carbon budget for 1.5 degrees. We're going to see the entire world either step up to take action or face the consequences for the next 200 years. And I'm an optimist, so I believe that we're going to see mobilization on the grand scale. I think Bitcoin and digital assets in general, to echo Jesse's point, is the perfect tool actually for mobilizing the entire world to participate. We have the ability now to assign individual addresses to every single human being on the planet and ask them to change their behavior so it's in line with the ability for the human race to survive. This is the world's coordination system being built as we speak. And on top of that, I believe that all of the frustration and sort of carbon emissions questions around Bitcoin actually is the catalyst for the entire network of Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the other ones to become carbon neutral before the existing financial industry does. That would be a huge win for our industry, be a huge win for the leadership potential, and also a huge win for the planet itself. So I'm super excited to work on this with you guys. Really appreciate the leadership you guys are taking already. And I can't wait to see more of how we actually catalyze the incredible wealth, the $2.2 trillion in crypto today, to be the most catalytic force for climate change the world's ever seen.
Max, I think you summarized it pretty well. I don't have a whole lot to add other than well said.
Yeah.
Sheldon?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is that it's it will happen. If you think about it, if you think about industry, if you think about infrastructure, the push from the society today is towards renewable infrastructure, renewable energy. And so it's just a matter of time. the coal plant that was built 70 years ago will be torn down, and there will be a wind farm there, or there will be a solar plant there, or geothermal, because that's what the money's spending on, and that's the energy people want. You know, Bitcoin, we take a lot of energy, and I think we're very efficient in it, but we're leading this because the spotlight's on us, and we have the, you know, capital, we're a new industry, we're just starting out, we can fix ourselves quickly. We don't have a legacy infrastructure except for stuff that we, you know, borrow or rent or use from other people. But, you know, we can build and create a brand new infrastructure based on renewables, and that's what we're trying to do. And everybody knows renewables are the cheapest. The reason I'm putting solar on my facility, and it's not just buying hydropower from my utility, is because after I pay my CapEx, my power is free. This is why, you know, at the end of the day, renewable will win. When it's free, you know, again, after your CapEx and some maintenance, this is the path forward. When you use a lot of power, this is the thing you look for. How do I get the cheapest power? Well, the cheapest power is always going to be renewable.
Awesome. Thank you, Sheldon. Jesse, last thought?
Greed can be useful. And in the crypto space, if people are going to keep making money, if institutions are going to keep making money because crypto prices are going to continue to go up, this has to be solved. So let's solve it.
Yeah.
Cool. And what I would say is, I think green mining is the future. I think green crypto is the future because we don't have any other choice. It needs to be. I mean, it just, you know, we know that clean energy is the future and we know that crypto is the future. Let's put the two together and make them, you know, make it happen sooner rather than later. And more discussions like this, you know, the better. Thank you guys. Thanks, Max. Thanks, Sheldon. Thanks, Jesse. I think this was really, yeah, I look productive and collaborative and hopeful. So we'll you know, onwards and upwards. And thanks, guys.
Thanks for inviting us.
Much.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.